Imagine being so terrified of your own government that you watch your country burn and cannot utter a word to the outside world. This is not a spy thriller or a Hollywood plot. This is the bitter reality of Tehran today. March 26, 2026. The streets, usually alive with the rhythm of daily life, are now shadows of themselves. Shops remain shuttered, schools are closed, and even the chatter of cafes has been replaced by nervous whispers and hurried phone calls. Citizens move quickly, aware that even casual conversations could be interpreted as dissent. Fear has become a currency in Iran, one that buys silence and obedience in equal measure. Earlier today, thousands of miles away in Washington, President Donald Trump hosted a private dinner for Republican lawmakers, a gathering that would set the world ablaze with speculation. In a moment that stunned both allies and critics, Trump disclosed details of what he called a 15-point peace plan for Iran, a document that mainstream media is still scrambling to understand. According to Trump, Tehran is desperate for a deal. Yet the Iranian negotiators are frozen not by strategy or hesitation, but by fear. Fear of their own people, fear for their lives. If these negotiators were to accept even a single point of Trump's plan, they risk execution at home. Hardliners in the Revolutionary Guard and intelligence apparatus label any concession as betrayal. The stakes are simple yet terrifying. Comply and die at the hands of your own country. Refuse and face the wrath of the United States and Israel. The anatomy of terror in Tehran. Inside Tehran, the tension is palpable. The city's skyline, often celebrated for its modern architecture and bustling streets, now serves as a silent witness to the country's anxiety. Government offices are brimming with officials who no longer trust even their colleagues. Rumors of insider leaks and covert messages from foreign intelligence circulate faster than official communiques. Iranian diplomats, usually trained to project calm, appear tense and haunted. Meetings happen in secret chambers, behind locked doors, away from prying eyes and cameras. These are not simple negotiations. They are survival strategies under constant threat of death. Trump's revelation about the 15-point plan has only intensified this fear. Sources indicate that the plan was sent to Tehran via Pakistan with instructions that the Iranian leadership treat it with the utmost secrecy. But intelligence leaks suggest that whispers of the plan have already begun to circulate among Iran's hardliners. Suddenly, Tehran's negotiators are trapped in a lethal psychological web. Approve the plan, and they may be branded traitors. Reject it, and they face the potential of decimating airstrikes. This is not diplomacy, it is an ultimatum cloaked in the language of negotiation. The 15-point peace plan. An overview. While the complete text of the plan remains classified, sources familiar with Trump's strategy have shared crucial points. Dismantling key nuclear sites. Fordow and Natanz, two of Iran's most sensitive nuclear facilities, would have to be neutralized under international supervision. Halting ballistic missile programs. Iran's missile capabilities, a cornerstone of its military deterrence, must be frozen indefinitely. Ending proxy support. Iran would have to stop funding and arming groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and other militias across the region. Sanctions relief. In return, all U.S. sanctions, including those targeting oil exports and banking operations, would be lifted. Verification protocols. International inspectors would have unrestricted access to facilities for at least a decade. Military transparency. Iran would report troop movements and military exercises to the UN Security Council Regional Non-Aggression Pact, a commitment to halt aggressive maneuvers against neighboring countries, particularly Israel and Saudi Arabia. Technology controls, restrictions on dual-use technologies that could be applied to nuclear or missile programs, cybersecurity oversight, allow international monitoring of Iran's critical cyber infrastructure. Cultural, academic exchange, initiatives to restore people-to-people contacts with the West, economic collaboration, opening Iran's oil and gas sector to foreign investment, intelligence cooperation, a framework for sharing information to counter terrorism and organized crime, naval conduct, commitment to freedom of navigation in the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz, environmental energy initiatives, collaboration on renewable energy and climate projects, public commitment to peace, a statement broadcast globally affirming Iran's dedication to regional stability. The plan is unprecedented in its scope and audacity. It reads less like a negotiation and more like a surrender document, one designed to corner the Iranian leadership into submission while leaving them almost no room to maneuver. The psychology of the ultimatum. What makes Trump's strategy so dangerous is not the list of demands, it is the psychological pressure applied to Iran's leadership. Imagine knowing that each point you consider accepting could be your last act on Earth. Hardliners in Tehran reportedly communicate through encrypted channels, debating strategy while fearing assassination. The Revolutionary Guard, once a source of national pride, has transformed into a machine of internal surveillance, ensuring loyalty through intimidation. Analysts suggest that even discussing the plan in private carries risks. The walls, quite literally, have ears. Trump's approach exploits this fear. By making public statements about Iran's desperation and the lethal stakes of the plan, he aims to unravel the internal cohesion of the Iranian leadership. In other words, the threat is both external and internal. The moment negotiators hesitate or appear willing to compromise, their own government may act against them. Trump is not simply leveraging military might, he is weaponizing paranoia and internal distrust. Global implications. The ripple effects of this psychological warfare are staggering. In Tehran, ordinary citizens are trapped in an escalating crisis. Panic buying of essentials has begun in some districts, while underground markets see surges in gold and foreign currencies. Internationally, allies of both the US and Iran are recalibrating strategies. Israel and Saudi Arabia monitor Tehran with hawk-like attention, ready to exploit any sign of weakness. Europe is caught between urging restraint and preparing for the fallout of an Iranian collapse. Even the digital battlefield is active. Social media channels, both local and international, are flooded with conflicting reports about Iran's intentions, missile launches, and possible defections within the government. Fake news, misinformation, and leaks have become weapons in themselves, amplifying fear and confusion. Conclusion of Part 1. As night falls over Tehran, the city that was once a symbol of culture, innovation, and resilience is now a stage of fear, paranoia, and survival. Trump's 15-point peace plan has not only put the Iranian government on edge, but also set the stage for an international chess game with global consequences. Negotiators are trapped, civilians are terrified, and the world watches, wondering if diplomacy can survive in an atmosphere of lethal fear. The clock is ticking, and the stakes have never been higher. The psychological pressure in Tehran today is as potent as any bomb. And as we move into Part 2, we will examine how the Hormuz toll, Kafr Qasim missile attack, and Pakistan's role are shaping the next phase of this volatile crisis. While Tehran trembles under the weight of Trump's 15-point peace plan, the world's attention has shifted to a far more tangible threat: the waters of the Persian Gulf. Today, March 26, 2026, the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow passageway through which nearly 20% of the world's oil flows, become the epicenter of an unprecedented geopolitical standoff. For decades, the strait has symbolized global energy security. Any disruption here ripples across stock markets, oil futures, and economies worldwide. But now, Iran has transformed this strategic choke point into a toll booth, and the fees are no longer being paid in US dollars, they demand Chinese Yuan. The Hormuz toll, economics meets strategy. The establishment of the so-called Hormuz toll is not just a symbolic move. It is a calculated economic maneuver aimed at undermining the petrodollar system. Traditionally, crude oil transactions are denominated in US dollars, giving America enormous influence over global finance. By demanding payment in yuan, Iran is signaling alignment with China and challenging decades of dollar dominance. Reports confirm that at least 2 merchant vessels have already paid safe passage fees, nearly 2 million each, in yuan. The fees are levied by the IRGC's Hormozgan Provincial Command, which now requires all ships to submit complete vessel details, crew manifests, and cargo declarations. Failure to comply risks confiscation or even attack. The move has sent shockwaves across global markets. Japanese and European governments are quietly tapping strategic oil reserves, while the U.S. Navy is massing its largest fleet in the region since the Gulf War of the 1990s. Analysts warn that if Iran codifies this system into law, draft bill is reportedly under review in Tehran's parliament, the petrodollar could face an existential threat. Pakistan, the expensive broker. While the Gulf waters seethe with tension, a quieter but equally consequential operation is unfolding on land. According to insider sources, Pakistan is acting as an intermediary for Trump's peace plan, but not without significant leverage of its own. The 15-point plan, it seems, was routed through Rawalpindi, the headquarters of the Pakistan Army. This was not a neutral handover. Pakistan is reportedly demanding financial support from the U.S. to stabilize its faltering economy, while simultaneously negotiating favorable oil deals with Tehran. In effect, Pakistan has become an expensive broker, profiting from the fire engulfing its neighbors. Moreover, leaked documents suggest that Pakistan delivered Trump's plan to Tehran with a subtle but deadly warning: comply or risk allowing U.S. military operations from Pakistani soil. This double game is fraught with danger. Tehran must now navigate not only Trump's ultimatum, but also the hidden agendas of an intermediary who stands to benefit from chaos. Kafr Qasim, the human face of escalation. While diplomats and analysts debate strategy, ordinary lives are being upended on the ground. In the early hours of March 26, Iranian ballistic missiles rained cluster munitions over Kafr Qasim, a city in central Israel. Surveillance footage shows vehicles tossed like toys and civilians sprinting for cover. The scene is a horrifying reminder that even amid talk of peace, the weapons of war are real, lethal, and indiscriminate. Cluster bombs are designed to maximize damage over a wide area. Unlike conventional explosives, they scatter smaller bomblets across neighborhoods, leaving destruction and casualties long after the initial strike. For Kafr Qasim, this attack is more than just an escalation. It is a psychological assault on an entire population, signaling that restraint is no longer an option. Israeli forces responded swiftly, targeting Iranian naval and missile production facilities with precision strikes. Yet the cycle of retaliation raises urgent questions. Can diplomacy survive amid such destruction? Or is the 15-point peace plan already slipping into the realm of fantasy? 26/3/2000 and 26/5. 13. Ashutosh Dubey. The Strait oil and global panic, the Hormuz toll, and Kafr Qasim attack are intertwined in ways most of the world cannot yet comprehend. The Strait's blockade, combined with rising missile attacks, has pushed oil prices to alarming heights. Traders in London, New York, and Tokyo watch crude climb, while shipping companies scramble to reroute vessels and insurers hike premiums. Every barrel of oil that passes through Hormuz now carries not just cost, but geopolitical risk. Economists warn that a prolonged blockade could force nations to tap emergency reserves, triggering a domino effect across industries. Gasoline prices in the U.S. are already hovering above 5 per gallon, sparking unrest and threatening domestic stability. In Europe, industrial production faces potential slowdowns, while Asia, particularly China and Japan, prepares for a prolonged disruption in energy imports. Inside Tehran, calculating risk back in Tehran, the combination of Trump's ultimatum, Pakistan's maneuvering, and the Hormuz toll has thrown Iranian leadership into crisis mode. Reports suggest frantic meetings inside the Supreme National Security Council, where officials weigh the cost of accepting the peace plan against the consequences of continued confrontation. Some hardliners advocate for defiance, believing that the U.S. and Israel will hesitate to launch full-scale strikes. Others argue that time is running out, and even partial compliance may save lives. The psychological tension is mirrored in the streets. Citizens report unusual military movements, checkpoints, and surveillance activities, all indicating that the Iranian regime is bracing for a potential escalation. The fear is so pervasive that even loyal government employees reportedly whisper in code when discussing daily tasks. Every decision, every conversation carries the weight of life and death. The media and information war, adding another layer to this complex crisis, is the battle over information. Both local and international media are flooded with conflicting reports. Some sources suggest Tehran is preparing a counter-proposal. Others hint at internal purges within the Revolutionary Guard. Social media amplifies fear and misinformation, creating an environment where rumors often carry more weight than verified facts. For Israel and the U.S., controlling the narrative is as crucial as controlling the battlefield. By publicly framing Iran as a desperate state, Trump aims to sow distrust within Tehran's corridors of power. The goal is to weaken Iran from within, ensuring that any military or economic measures are amplified by internal panic. Part 2, conclusion. March 26, 2026 is shaping up to be a day of multiple crises. On the waters of the Persian Gulf, Iran challenges the petrodollar and tests global resolve. On land, Pakistan manipulates both Tehran and Washington to extract political and financial leverage. And in Kafr Qasim, Civilians bear the human cost of decisions made in distant boardrooms. The combination of economic pressure, military posturing, and psychological warfare paints a dangerous picture. The world stands on the edge of a crisis that is not just regional but global. Hormuz is no longer just a strait. It is a symbol of control, power, and fear. Kafr Qasim is no longer just a city. It is a warning that diplomacy may be outpaced by violence. As the sun sets over the Persian Gulf, the countdown continues. Analysts, governments, and citizens alike ask the same question. Will Iran crack under the combined pressures of economics, diplomacy, and military threat, or will defiance trigger a wider war with consequences beyond imagination? 26/3/2000 and 26/5/14. Ashutosh Dubey. While the world struggles to interpret the escalating crisis in Tehran and the Strait of Hormuz, a far more ominous dimension is unfolding above and beyond the battlefield. On March 26, 2026, the United States is not merely issuing warnings or imposing sanctions, it is moving elite military assets into position, signaling preparations that go far beyond diplomacy. The 81st Airborne Division, widely regarded as the world's most elite paratrooper force, has been mobilized for deployment to the Middle East. The 81st Airborne, Angels of Death. Unlike conventional military units, the 81st Airborne is trained to project force into hostile territory, seize strategic locations, and neutralize high-value targets with precision. Reports confirm that at least 0 paratroopers, including the Honest Combat Brigade under Major General Brandon Tegmeyer, have begun boarding transport planes in North Carolina. The message is clear. These troops are not being deployed for humanitarian aid or embassy security. They are preparing for direct combat operations on Iranian soil if diplomacy fails. Accompanying the paratroopers, approximately 50 Marines are en route to reinforce U.S. positions in the region, creating a combined elite response force of over 70 troops. Strategists note that such a force could seize critical infrastructure, including airfields, oil terminals, and missile production sites within hours of landing. This is a classic application of shock and awe, designed to intimidate and paralyze the adversary before conventional warfare begins. Natanz, the super bunker. While the U.S. prepares for a potential incursion, intelligence reports suggest that Iran has quietly escalated its own defenses. Satellite imagery reveals a super bunker deep beneath the Natanz mountain, reportedly housing the country's most advanced centrifuges and nuclear infrastructure. Unlike prior facilities that could be targeted by conventional bunker-busting bombs, this new installation is so fortified that even the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, the largest non-nuclear bomb in the U.S. arsenal, may be ineffective. The Natanz bunker represents both a strategic and psychological gambit. By moving critical nuclear assets underground, Iran signals its resolve to protect its nuclear program at all costs, even in the face of overwhelming military threat. This development has prompted urgent debates within Washington. Would striking Natanz require tactical nuclear options? And if so, what are the potential consequences for global escalation? Operation Epic Fury. The Pentagon's contingency against this backdrop, the Pentagon has reportedly activated Operation Epic Fury, a code name for a comprehensive strike plan designed to paralyze Iran's command and control systems in a single coordinated operation. 12 F-35 fighter jets have already taken off from a British airbase in Cyprus, heading east to join surveillance and electronic warfare missions. Epic Fury is more than a traditional airstrike. Sources indicate that it involves simultaneous precision strikes, cyber attacks, electronic warfare, and paratrooper deployment aiming to collapse Iran's military infrastructure within 48 hours. The objective is clear: prevent retaliatory missile launches, disable naval assets, and secure key facilities before Iran can regroup. Analysts note that such operations carry enormous risk. Miscalculations could trigger regional escalation, potentially drawing in Israel, Saudi Arabia, and even China. Yet for Trump and his strategists, the alternative inaction carries its own lethal consequences. China's covert shadow war. While military maneuvers unfold visibly, a covert dimension is in motion, and China is a key player. Following Iran's declaration of the Hormuz toll, the People's Bank of China issued directives guaranteeing protection for vessels paying fees in digital yuan, ECNY. This ensures that Iran can monetize its oil exports without U.S. interference. 26/3/2000 and 26/5/14. Ashutosh Dubey. Beyond economics, satellite tracking has identified a Yuan Wang-class spy ship near the Persian Gulf, reportedly transmitting real-time reconnaissance data to Iranian drone operators. This intelligence could allow Iranian drones to bypass Patriot missile batteries and launch targeted strikes against shipping, ports, and military assets. Beijing's posture is strategic. By supporting Iran in this shadow war, China gains influence over one of the world's most critical energy choke points, challenges U.S. dominance in the region, and expands its geopolitical footprint while publicly maintaining a posture of trade security. The message is unmistakable. The Middle East is no longer just a regional conflict. It has become a testing ground for global superpower rivalry. The insider threat, Tehran's vulnerabilities. Complicating matters further is the presence of a high-level insider within Iran's Supreme National Security Council, allegedly feeding intelligence to Mossad and the CIA. This mole reportedly provided exact coordinates of the Natanz superbunker and tracked movements of Iran's top leadership, allowing Israel and the U.S. to target specific facilities with unprecedented precision. The psychological effect of this insider cannot be overstated. Iranian negotiators are not only under threat from external forces, they are also suspicious of each other. Trust has eroded to near zero, and internal purges are reportedly underway. Trump's comments about frightened negotiators were strategic. By publicizing the fear, he aims to accelerate internal paranoia and force Tehran into submission without firing a shot. Economic stakes: oil, gas, and the dollar. Military operations are only one facet of the crisis. The combination of Hormuz tolls, missile attacks, and impending U.S. intervention has sent global oil prices skyrocketing. Crude is trading above 110 per barrel, and the economic ripple is felt worldwide. In the U.S., gas stations report long queues, diesel prices exceed 5 per gallon, and trucking unions threaten strikes, compounding domestic unrest. Globally, the potential shift from dollar to yuan in oil transactions could erode U.S. financial leverage, undermining both domestic and international policy tools. The interplay between military, economic, and psychological warfare highlights the unprecedented complexity of this crisis. The world is not watching a conventional conflict. It is witnessing a multi-dimensional war where every move, spoken word, and leaked document has immediate and far-reaching consequences. Part 3, Conclusion. As March 26 comes to a close, the stage is set for an extraordinary confrontation. The 80-21 Airborne is in the air, Natanz sits fortified underground, Operation Epic Fury is primed, and China maneuvers covertly to protect its interests. Meanwhile, Iran struggles with internal betrayal, economic pressure, and the looming threat of military devastation. The Middle East now stands at a crossroads. Will Trump's combination of elite military force, psychological pressure, and economic leverage succeed in forcing Iran to comply? Or will these maneuvers provoke a wider war, potentially drawing in multiple global powers? In Part 4, we will examine the economic fallout, oil and gas crises, the Saturday deadline, and the dramatic finale revealing the stakes for both nations and the world as March 28 approaches. 26-3, 2000, and 26-5, 15. Ashutosh Dubey. As March 26, 2026 draws to a close, the world teeters on the edge of catastrophe. Military assets are in motion, elite forces hover over hostile territory, and nuclear bunkers remain fortified deep beneath Iranian mountains. But alongside this looming conflict, another crisis quietly grips the globe: the economic fallout from war and instability, particularly the spiraling cost of oil and energy, which threatens to ripple across every nation. 5. Gas and global panic in the United States. The impact of Iran's Hormuz toll, missile strikes, and military posturing is immediate and visceral. Gasoline prices have surged above 5.45 per gallon, with diesel costs even higher. Trucking companies responsible for moving essential goods nationwide are issuing warnings of potential strikes, and long queues have formed at filling stations in Texas, Florida, and the Northeast. Households feel the pinch first. Families who once budgeted for food, school, and entertainment now find themselves diverting funds to cover escalating fuel costs. Analysts warn that if the conflict escalates, gasoline prices could surpass 6 per gallon, triggering inflationary pressures that ripple through groceries, shipping, and utilities. Energy markets on edge globally. The energy market reacts with near immediate panic. Japan taps strategic reserves, while South Korea, China, and European nations explore alternative sources of crude. Traders scramble to hedge against uncertainty, leading to extreme volatility in futures contracts. The shift of even 20% of global oil trade from U.S. dollars to Chinese Yuan, facilitated by Iran and backed by Beijing, could threaten the dollar's supremacy as the world's reserve currency, a seismic economic shift with ramifications that extend far beyond the Middle East. For the United States, this is more than an economic issue. It is a national security crisis. The combination of rising oil prices, potential fuel shortages, and domestic unrest puts additional pressure on President Trump. His decisions in the coming days will affect not only military strategy, but the stability of the American economy itself. The insider mole, Tehran's Achilles heel. While the world focuses on missile launches and Hormuz blockades, a high-level insider within Iran's Supreme National Security Council continues to reshape the conflict from within. Allegedly collaborating with both Mossad and the CIA, this operative has provided the U.S. and Israel with precise intelligence on Iranian nuclear sites, leadership locations, and defensive positions. The psychological effect of this mole cannot be overstated. Iranian hardliners, aware of leaks but unable to locate the source, have begun internal purges. Trust has eroded completely, with even loyal officials reluctant to speak freely. Meetings occur under strict surveillance, and communications are heavily encrypted. In essence, Tehran faces not just external threats, but an internal war of paranoia, where every decision carries mortal consequences. The Saturday deadline, ultimatum or peace. Amid this tension, attention has shifted to a looming date. Saturday, March 28, 2026. Reports suggest that Trump may announce a ceasefire or final ultimatum on this day. However, this is far from a traditional peace deal. Analysts describe it as a final warning. Comply with the U.S. demands, particularly regarding nuclear de-escalation, or face decisive military action, including potential seizure of Karg Island, Iran's oil hub. The psychological strategy is evident. By publicly setting a deadline, Trump compresses Iran's decision-making window, forcing leaders to weigh the catastrophic consequences of defiance against internal political backlash. This ticking clock has already intensified fear among Tehran's leadership and amplified global market volatility. 26/3/2026-5-15. Ashutosh Dubey. Nuclear shadow. The Natanz conundrum. Even as negotiators consider the deadline, the shadow of the Natanz superbunker looms. U.S. intelligence confirms that the facility is fortified beyond conventional capabilities. In response, the Pentagon has deployed 6 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers to Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, each equipped with the GBU-57 bunker buster bombs capable of penetrating deep underground targets. The decision now lies with Trump: strike Natanz and risk global escalation, or delay and continue diplomatic pressure. The stakes could not be higher. Analysts warn that any miscalculation could trigger retaliatory strikes, regional war, or even a nuclear misstep scenario that could redefine the Middle East and send shockwaves worldwide. The human cost. Civilians caught in the crossfire. While global leaders debate strategy and markets react, ordinary civilians pay the heaviest price. In Kafr Qasim, families still reel from the cluster bomb attack, and in Tehran, citizens live under constant surveillance and fear. Schools, hospitals, and businesses operate under extreme caution. Even minor dissent is treated as treasonous. This human dimension adds urgency to the crisis. The clock toward the Saturday deadline is not merely a political countdown, it is a countdown for survival. Every missile, every sanction, every leaked document ripples into the lives of millions, turning geopolitical chess moves into human suffering. Global chessboard, allies and rivals. The crisis also illuminates the complex web of global interests. Israel, watching Iran's missile capabilities and nuclear ambitions, advocates for immediate decisive action. Saudi Arabia monitors Hormuz closely, prepared to protect shipping lanes and energy exports. China's yuan-backed strategy strengthens Iran economically while signaling to the U.S. that Beijing is willing to challenge its regional dominance without direct confrontation. Meanwhile, Pakistan continues its dual role as an intermediary and opportunist, leveraging both Washington and Tehran for strategic and financial gains. The entire region has become a complex chessboard, where a single misstep could trigger cascading conflict across continents. Countdown to March 28. Tension at the breaking point. As the world approaches Saturday, March 28, the tension is nearly unbearable. Military, economic, and psychological pressures converge.